All right. Well, we're on to another alumni series chat. This is Caitlin Courtney, and she's going to share her experience being an acupuncturist, herbalist in COVID time. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm at work, so I'm hiding out in a treatment room so I don't have to wear my mask. You guys can see me. But yeah, I opened Willow Elm Wellness during COVID. We started seeing patients in May in a co-working space in Wicker Park, just like one room, and I had the whole co-working space to myself essentially because nobody else was an essential worker. So that was kind of felt sort of apocalyptic. But it worked out really well. And then I was able to grab a commercial space right off Armitage in Logan Square, and they built it out for me. And now I have 2 treatment rooms for acupuncture and massage, and I have a chiropractor that I also work with. And that's kind of how I started. But yeah, like one of your questions, I think this is always really interesting. I always ask other acupuncturists this about how we got started, because everyone's story is always really interesting, I think. And a lot of it comes from like terrible treatment in other medical systems.
Definitely.
And while I believe that West and East can definitely work together, I have found that that's kind of what led me to Chinese medicine is, I started getting really sick in high school. I had migraines, I missed a bunch of school, and I ended up going to Mayo Clinic all the way in Rochester, Minnesota. And they diagnosed me with a bunch of different things, put me on an insane amount of medication. I had several surgeries and nothing really helped. And finally, somebody told me, why don't you try acupuncture? And I was like 17 and debilitated. So I was like, sure, put all the needles in. I'll just roll around in a vat. Whatever you want me to do is what I'll do. So I went, and I was a competitive swimmer before I got sick, and I was back in the pool swimming laps in like 8 weeks. It was wild. So I didn't really care what I had. I just cared that it was helping. And so I got into acupuncture pretty young. I don't know a lot of people that got into acupuncture in their teens. So I was really lucky that I found it really early. And then I did my pre-med at Loyola and then transitioned straight to PCOM. So I didn't have a lot of like gap time. I knew exactly kind of where I wanted to be.
How old are you now?
I'm 28.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So how young am I, do you mean?
Yes.
But yeah, I'm 28. I worked in a different clinic outside of PCOM like right away while doing my doctorate full time. Completed my doctorate and worked there until I was furloughed due to the pandemic, and lasted about 2 days sitting in my house, feeling crazy, and just kind of was like, well, I think I could do this by myself. And just kind of ran with it. I was really lucky. Actually, another alumni of PCOM, Zahava Berkowitz, she's a close friend of mine, and she said, I have this great list. She went through all the trouble of opening a business and didn't have a lot of help. So she said, I made this list for people that come after me. And she gave me this super detailed list of this is the first step. And then you apply for this. And then you do this. And so I followed her list, and I am forever indebted to her amazing organization skills. Because I think riddling that out all by yourself would have been, it would have been doable. Absolutely. But would it have taken me 2+ months more time? Yes, absolutely.
Well, can I ask you some questions there? Like, so you started at a co-op space where you were sharing space with a bunch of people. Is that how it worked initially? And
so I was actually just in a co-working space. So
okay.
like the Upwork or things like that. And I rented a room, but nobody was in the entire building really. Because nobody was essential. They were all like architects or various people that didn't really need to be in the space. So I just worked in a co-working space with no one else, just me.
Okay. And that to get to that stage, you followed her whole list that she gave you to
Yeah.
help you get to there. And then you transitioned to your own space, or you had them build it out. So I've never heard of someone building it out. So can you elaborate on like that experience? Do you have to talk to contractors, or did you tell them what you wanted and they do it? Like, what happened there?
It was really unique because of COVID. So when I initially met with them, one of my friends is a realtor, and she took me to various spaces, and starting off is really scary because you see these price tags of commercial spaces and you're just like, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
It's really terrifying because you don't know how many people you're going to get in the door. You really don't. I was lucky in that I had worked before, so there were people that were like going to follow me wherever I went, which is great and felt amazing. And I had that one room, so I was able to see people. So I had a few people that were coming during my transition time, which was great. So that helped a little bit confidence wise. But yeah, I think it was really different with COVID. So I saw all these different spaces. And then I saw the space I'm in now, and it was completely what they call like a vanilla box. So it's just a concrete space with nothing built out, and they can kind of turn it into what you want it to be turned into. And I was very lucky in that because of COVID, they weren't able to rent it. So they were able to kind of come down on their initial price, which I was very excited about. I was able to have it written into my lease that should there be another pandemic, I can break my lease. So I think that's really important for people signing leases, like students signing leases moving forward. It's biblical. I don't remember the phrase, but it's like a biblical phrase for plagues and floods and all of this that they can write into your lease, so that if something catastrophic happens, then you're off the lease, which I think is helped a lot during this time to have okay, well, if everything lights on fire and nothing goes right, we're out of here. So I was really lucky, and I think that's really important for people to know that they can request, especially now, to have that in their lease, that okay, if this resurges, if we get numbers above a certain whatever, you can have that in your lease. So I would highly recommend that. But yeah, it was looking at spaces, knowing that, quite honestly, during COVID, renters have the upper hand. Getting people in commercial spaces is really difficult during this time because people aren't doing well. So you can negotiate. I don't think people necessarily know that a rent is not a set rent. You can negotiate. It's just like buying a house. If they ask for a certain price, you can always counter. So countering was really helpful for me. And then having that clause in my lease was really good. And I was, again, very lucky that they wanted the space filled. So they built it out for me. And initially they had said in the contract, oh, you pay for the build out. And that will be in most lease contracts, is if you want to build a space out, you have to pay for it, which can be really expensive. But again, because of COVID, renters have the upper hand. They had the contractors on site. So they built it out to my specifications on their dime, which was really amazing. And I'm not sure if that would happen in 3 years. I think if you rent in the next year, ask them to build it out for you, because they might.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So then it was working with the contractor and saying, okay, I need 10 by 10, or I need to fit this size of a table in this room, and I need the room to flow in this way. So that was fun to design my space how I wanted it to be. I pick the light fixtures and kind of make sure everything was to what I needed. So that was really great as well. But yeah, I mean, I think people think, and I remember being at PCOM and folks saying, it was a little scary to start, and it is, but it's not as much overhead as you might think. Yeah. If you do it smart. And I think Elaine Bozar said this to me when I was in school. She was like, you need a table and some needles. That's pretty much all you need. And then you grow once you make money and you can do other things, but people will come if you're good. It's kind of a field of dreams situation. They'll come.
Okay, so you built that out. And then now you're working with a chiropractor. Did you go recruit a chiropractor, or did you just find somebody and you're like, well, you're awesome, come work with me?
Yeah, no, actually he reached out to me, and I had worked with him before in the place that I had worked before. It was like a joint space. So we had massage and PT and all of that. So he reached out to me and was like, hey, I see that you're doing this. And he was actually working for someone else at the time, and said, I think I want to do my own thing eventually. Maybe I can jump in and we can co-treat. And I thought that was great, because I do think that's a good business model to have other practitioners that you can refer to in-house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I know, you know, places like oh God, in Alyssa Shana worked there. Whole Health. Whole Health. So Whole Health will kind of do this as well, where they have functional medicine and they have, you know, different practitioners all in the same building. And it's really helpful, especially I treat a lot of chronic illness. So it's really nice when you have somebody that is dealing with like a lot of debilitating illness, that they can see everyone in the same office and we all chat and make sure that they're taken care of really well.
So how do you guys work that together? Do you like, does he manipulate first and you throw needles, or does he have his own like appointments with them and you kind of pick it up later on? Like, how do you guys organize that?
Yeah, so usually if we co-treat, he'll go first. I don't love people being acu-stoned, kind of rolling into the chiro room looking like Johnny Depp after all the rum is gone. Like, it's just, I don't feel like it's good for adjustments, because you kind of undo the like acu-zen if you're just like wrenching someone's neck, in my opinion. So I like if he kind of loosens them up first and then I get them and then they leave and they float out. That's my preference. We don't always co-treat. We see people separately. You know, he has his schedule, I have my schedule, but they overlap quite a bit. Yeah.
And you guys make that work with 2 rooms?
So I have 2 rooms. He has 1.
Okay.
So I see people on the half hour and we kind of juggle and coordinate, so that if his patients need me, then they're scheduled on my schedule too.
Cool. And so you've been in practice how long in your own?
On my own?
Or on your second building? How long have you had that practice running?
August.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you rocking? You rolling along pretty well?
I'm seeing 45 people this week.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. You're rocking.
Yeah. And you know, I was looking back at because I feel like it's really good to make goals as you're going through this, because I'm also somebody who's kind of a perfectionist. So I was a little worried that I would make really unrealistic goals for myself doing this and then feel like I wasn't doing, because I came from a practice where, you know, people were scheduled on my schedule. I didn't have to do all the back end of the work. Like I submit to insurance, I coordinate with the chiropractor, like I coordinate with the massage therapist I work with. Like we do, you know, like Instagram, and I do a newsletter and I do a diet thing. And so we do a lot. And so I was like, okay, you know, I can't compare myself to working for a company that did all that work for me. So I was looking back at my goals while I was doing my taxes this year. And I think I had projected like, okay, we're successful if we see like 20 people a week by the end of the first year of business, and it's double that. So I think it feels really good. But it's good to make like really low, like kind of low realistic goals, I think, because then you can look back and be like, yes, I'm killing it. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thanks.
That's awesome. Very impressive.
Thanks.
Well, and so we're not really following our
That's okay.
thing anyway. I have questions. You have so many interesting things to ask about. So what are you doing for like your social media and that outreach? Like, how do you market yourself? How do you, like, what's your game plan there?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have room to grow with social media. I feel like it got busy so quickly and I didn't 100% expect it, but some of those things that I was doing initially, like I was doing monthly newsletters and I definitely still do them, but I don't do them on the first of the month like I always did. I do them when I can do them. So it's a little bit more haphazard, and I have made goals to, you know, do like a post a week. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So it's a little bit kind of like whatever I have time for. But I like to do posts on like common things I see, or, you know, common things that might need treatment right now, like sleep or fertility. I'm seeing like 200% more fertility than I've ever seen in my entire life right now, which is interesting.
Everyone making babies during COVID time.
People are making babies. And I'm doing a lot of like autoimmunity, which has been interesting. And I like that. So that's like those like kind of goo syndromes, the knotty diseases. I enjoy those, like the Doctor House of Acupuncture type cases where they like really are intriguing. Pain is fine. I do a lot of e-stim and work with pain as well, but it's not like as exciting for me. So yeah, it's kind of what I have time for. I do pay for like Yelp advertising, and it's not crazy, but just to kind of be on people's radar when they Google, you know, acupuncturist in Logan Square. And I do think that definitely pays dividends, especially honestly, most people reach out for the massage therapists on Yelp. So that's a lot for their practice too.
So you have massage therapists there too?
I do.
Okay, okay. Oh yes, Alyssa.
So the super talented Alyssa massages at Willow and Elm, and also helps teach me about social media because I'm a secret octogenarian. And I also have a wonderful male massage therapist too, Rob LeBach, and he teaches at PCOM as well.
Very cool. Oh, so you have those two and the
Mm-hmm.
Cairo, and you guys have a total of 3 rooms, and
Mm-hmm.
you make that work. Okay, okay.
Yeah, we kind of juggle, like everyone's schedule is different, you know, like with Rob and Alyssa, since they're both at PCOM, their schedule changes very frequently. So we just kind of like, all right, we're juggling the schedule this quarter. All right. But I think it works really well. And I really enjoy, especially co-treating with like MTs that have some knowledge of Chinese medicine. Has been really, really great
Mhm.
because then I can say, hey, you know, this is what's going on. And they will already kind of have an idea of what I'm doing, and they'll be able to like read my notes and understand. So it takes out some of the like explanation behind co-treating for sure.
Very cool. And so, like, just kind of understanding your logistics of your business. So, is Alyssa and the other massage therapist and the Cairo all independent contractors, all renting space from you essentially?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes everything easier tax wise and everything on you.
Well,
I don't know. You let me
it's
know.
all, yeah. So if you have independent contractors, they submit 1099s. So it makes it a little complicated, but I will say, there's like a tax guy that I really, really like. He does taxes for a lot of acupuncturists in the city. So he's really comfortable working with like the craziness of taxes surrounding like getting some of your income from Crane Herbal Company, getting some of your income from Full Script for prescribing supplements, getting some of your income from wholesale products, getting some from independent contractors and this and that. So I would like highly recommend him. And his what's his last name? Josh, I think it's Josh Goldman. And he works in the city and he's been awesome with like every question. I've probably talked with Josh easily 10 hours since I opened my business. Just being like, Josh, is this kosher? What's, no pun intended, we're both Jewish. um, just being like, is this okay? What do I do about this? You know, how should I pay people? Or, you know, like, is a deposit on rent, is that tax deductible? What do we do with this? And he doesn't charge for that. So probably should, but he doesn't yet. So I like highly recommend. I know a few people also use, oh gosh, she's also an acupuncturist. You guys have probably met her. Her name is escaping me. Anyway, Josh Goldman is fantastic. Highly recommend for like, if you open your own thing, do your taxes with someone else. Don't try to do them yourself your first year. And maybe once you know what's going on, do them. But like, don't do it. Just don't do it.
That's good advice. That's good advice. Me, I'd be like, oh, I could TurboTax this, and no.
I will say also like opening a business, keeping a spreadsheet of every single thing you buy for that business, whether it's like a pack of Band-Aids or water bottles, or like just write it down and categorize it, because all of that is tax deductible and will be taken out of your end of year income. So if you have overhead for a year opening a business of like 35 grand and you make 80, then taking that out is going to be a huge chunk that saves you on taxes. So I would highly recommend being really organized from the get-go. If you buy your domain, that's also something I would recommend. Buying your domain exactly when you know what you're going to name your business, buy it. Mm-hmm. Buy your like username through like an internet or through like an email domain as well. Like, you know, I have Dr. Courtney at willowandelmwellness.com. So it's I think it's more professional when everything matches, you know, your website, your emails, like everything. So I would get like, you know, your name, you get your Instagram, you get your Twitter, you get your, like, get everything in your name.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense. Did you make your own website or did you contract that out?
I did. I made my own website, and anything that I had questions on, I think I had like one question. I have like an online store on my website, and I went on Fiverr and just paid an IT person like $50 to take a look and make sure that all the links worked and everything. But otherwise, I designed it myself. I took most of the photos myself. Um, yeah, and it's evolved over time, you know, like as I've had more time or resources to allocate to it, it's definitely gotten better and more fleshed out. But initially it was like book an appointment and that's it. And now it definitely has gotten to be more than that, where you can like read about the practitioners and, you know, book with each one of us individually and, you know, kind of see our store and see the products and learn about Willow and Elm. So it's definitely gotten more fleshed out.
Yeah, I looked at it. I was actually really impressed by it. I was like, this is really cool. And the pictures were awesome. I didn't really know what that little fluff ball looked like. It was moss with the needle on it. Whatever that was, it looked awesome. It's like, this
An
is
air plant.
air plant.
Or it's like a moss or air plant or something that doesn't require a lot of water. Alyssa might know that better than me. She's the plant lady.
It looked really, really good, really professional. And I liked that when I went on it on my phone, it flowed and looked really good. Did
Thank
you
you.
use Squarespace or like what?
Squarespace.
Squarespace? Okay.
And
Yeah.
actually, they're really good with their customer support. So you can call and kind of say, I want to set up this link, or I want to do this, or I want to connect, you know, my electronic medical record system to my website so people can just book directly. And they're really great with helping you figure that out. It might take a couple days to get like a healthy response, but once they're responding, it was really helpful. I was able to do it, and I wouldn't think I'm not the most tech savvy, to be quite honest. So.
Well, kind of tagging on to that, like, how do you do your business? Like, not business, sorry, your billing. How do you bill? Like, do you do it through Squarespace, or I know they have some apps in there, or do you have to use a different system?
Yeah, so I started off using holistic billing services. And they're generally, I feel like, what most acupuncturists start off using. So you can verify your insurance and add a verification button on your website. So if patients are looking to verify their own insurance, they can do that. So I think that's really helpful, just because it's another job I don't have to do. Additionally, um, you know, they're pretty good at getting back within 2 to 3 business days. But I will say you have to kind of, as you get higher volume, they're a little slower. So what I've noticed is that they haven't been working as much for me now that I'm higher volume. So I think if you have kind of small volume, they take, you know, their percentage, which is usually somewhere close to 10%. But you know what, honestly, like, to not bill, I would pay 30%. I probably would. And insurance pays at higher rates. So it really doesn't make a huge difference in like your overhead. For example, like a Blue Cross Blue Shield patient, you might get paid out $180 for one session. So that's well above cash pay prices
Oh, yeah.
generally. And even if they take $18, 10% of that, it's still not going to be, you know, anything that really hurts you. I know some people like to do their own billing. I think that sounds like straight hell. I'm going to say no to that. So I've actually, again, Zahava, and I don't know if you guys know Gudrun. She owns her own practice in the West Loop. I think Moon Rabbit, yeah. So we all got together and went and talked to another billing company who's more a boutique billing company. They're called Mindful Billing. And they do acupuncture, and they get back to you within 2 to 4 hours. With insurance verification, makes a huge difference, because patients come in and they want to know what they're going to pay right away. And if you're emailing them back 4 days later, it's not great. They might have found somebody else. So, I mean, it's been working fine, but again, like that higher volume, you like need it faster, and you only work with one person. So you have somebody that will reach like every single one of your claims. If you have any questions, you only chat with your, you know, customer service representatives. They're a little bit more boutique, But what we did was we said, again, like everything's negotiable. I feel like if I could tell myself that in school, everything's negotiable. So we said, okay, we'll switch our billing company to you if you give us a lower percent. And, they kind of like hemmed and hawed, but, billing companies aren't doing so great right now because people generally aren't seeing the higher volume. So they're doing a lot of their billing themselves. And a lot of these places don't have contracts.
Mhm.
So they just take 10% of what you put in. And if you put nothing in, then they don't get anything. So I think they realized when we said, okay, we'll bring 3 practices worth of patients to your business. And so they took down our percentage that they would take out of our claims. So that was really helpful. So I would say, like, if you can get like a group of people to all sign up at the same time, or choose an EMR, or like a few people you graduated with, they're opening their own place. If you can get a group to go to a billing company and say, hey, we're going to give you business, they'll give you a lower rate, which helps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, I feel like in our culture, we're like, here's the sticker, this is the price, and you don't negotiate. And like, if you go to any other country, there is no sticker. Like,
Yeah.
even here, like
Yeah.
that sticker is always erasable. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
very good to know. Like,
yeah. And I definitely, if you can get to a place where you use a smaller billing company that's more boutique, I think I would recommend it, because like I said, like getting back to somebody in 2 hours is just leagues away from getting back to them in 3 days.
and what was that company's name? The one that you are using now?
Mindful billing.
Mindful Billing. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole world I have not gotten into yet. I'm like, and I think I can speak for most acupuncturists, we're not really the greatest at math and like charting things, and like, I don't know, that's not my strong suit. So I will pay somebody every day for that.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then oftentimes your claims get denied for whatever reason. And so they'll go back and submit it 3 more times. So you don't even have to think about it, and you can take a look and like look through all your claims and see, oh, what's been paid out, what hasn't been paid out, shoot them a message, and they just do it automatically, resubmit 3 times. And you get paid. If you were yourself, you would have to have so much time on your hands to resubmit 2, 3 times. You don't need to be doing that. In my humble opinion, nobody needs to be doing that.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work and paperwork and calling insurance companies, which is always terrible. So like, if you can pay somebody to do it, do it.
Well, I have a question. Personally, I'm a veteran and I want to work with the VA. Like, veterans are kind of like my niche that I want to get into. Like, have you worked with the VA, and how hard is it to do? Like, will that same billing company deal with the VA for you and do all those claims, or do you have to do those separately?
No, yeah. So usually billing companies will, as long as you have a contract with each company that you want to bill to, they'll bill wherever you want them to bill. The only time that they charge you is if a patient has met their deductible and they have no service, like the company won't get paid. So then they charge you. So I'm in network with Optum and United, so I do treat veterans. So that Optum is like the veteran network now. I think it used to be, what did it used to be? Oh, I'm not sure, but they transitioned to Optum. And Optum takes a very long time to get in network with them and to get a contract. So easily probably 5 or 6 months it will take to get in network with Optum, just because they're such a huge network. And they want to make sure that you're really serious. So if you don't do the applications and reach out to them and make sure that you're on top of it, it just kind of doesn't happen. So I have a contract with Optum, and I think it took me 4.5 months to get it. And I don't see a lot of vets, honestly. I used to, but I don't so much in Logan Square for whatever reason. But they're pretty easy to work with, honestly, especially if you have a billing company. Because again, if you have a contract and they know what your contract is, you're great. And you do need to have contracts. I think that's something I didn't know either. I was like, oh, I'll just get a billing company. No, you have to have a contract with the insurance company. You can bill out of network if you wish, but you really won't get paid that often. So you need to have contracts with Blue Cross Blue Shield is probably the best one to have. And then Optum, if you're going to look into treating vets.
Can you explain on that a little more? I've never heard of contract with insurance companies. Like you have to have your own individual contract with them and it varies from practitioner to practitioner. Is that how that works? Or like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So they'll send you a contract and you have to apply to be in their network, but they do some of your advertising for you because they'll, like, I'm on Blue Cross Blue Shield's website as far as covered practitioners go. So you can look up, I'm looking for an acupuncturist in Chicago and I will come up as in network from Blue Cross Blue Shield, which really helps because people do check for that. But yeah, so you'll reach out to Blue Cross Blue Shield, their credentialing department. So you can just call their number and say, hey, I need the information for the credentialing department. You need to fill out, it's called CAQH. And then you fill out all your license information and have you had any claims against you or, assaults in your past or XYZ so that they know you're not a sociopath. And then they'll go ahead and give you a contract. I haven't seen anybody that hasn't had like a criminal history not get a contract, quite honestly. So they send you the contract and that's what tells you what you can charge. So you cannot charge rates that are above their contracted rate. So that's how you get paid.
Okay.
It's always above self-pay anyway, and they only pay a portion. So you bill, some of my super bills are $350 because I do, needles for 45 minutes. So like 3 units. I do infrared for 1 unit. I do cupping for 1 unit. All of that's like $350. They pay me like $150. So they never pay the whole thing. But yeah, like, do you guys talk about billing codes at all?
I haven't had a class that goes over that at all yet.
Okay. Okay.
So this is all new for me. So I've seen it when we're going to clinic and I see the billing codes they do. I've never had that really explained to me. Like I always write something down and I'm like, but I left the needles in for like 30 minutes, but this only says 15 minutes. So I didn't know that you do the same billing twice. Is that what you're saying essentially?
Yeah, so there's an initial code for initial needles, whether you use stim or non-stim, you choose non-stim initial code, stim initial code, and then that's 1 unit. And then depending on how long you leave the needles in, each unit is 15 to 22 minutes. So if you do 45 minutes, then you can bill for 2 to 3 units of acupuncture. Each unit of acupuncture with insurance is about $75. So they usually pay for 2 units of acupuncture. So you code for 97810, which you see in clinic,
Yeah.
and then 97811 or 97813 if you're using stim. But it's all in, the good thing is that it's all in the electronic medical record system. If you use an EMR, it will say, like initial unit, 15 minutes. So it's kind of self-explanatory. But I was underbilling when I started by just billing 2 units. And a lot of different places will, like, if you bill for cups as well, you get a little bit of extra. And, so I bill for everything I do. And then what they pay. But I think people underestimate what they need to bill for because they're afraid that they've got some like sticker shock of like, oh my God, I'm charging the insurance company $350 for a session. Well, no, they only pay, 150. But if you don't charge for any of that stuff, you're going to be paid at a lower rate. Yeah, I know. I had to learn all of this on the fly too. And I wish there was a class for like insurance billing and how to do these contracts and all of that because it is really invaluable.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, so I looked on your website and I saw that you worked under a company for 2 years, seeing 50 people per week. And
Mhm.
like, is that where you got some of this knowledge from, or did you? Okay.
Definitely. And then some of it I had to teach myself because when you do your own thing, a lot of times, I didn't work with the billing so much. I put in my codes, but I wasn't seeing what got reimbursed or what didn't get reimbursed. And I wasn't looking at the insurance verification. I didn't have to have that on my radar. And now I do, so somebody's insurance comes back and it says they have 20 visits. You have to pay attention to that because they won't pay past that 20 visit. Versus if you work for a company that does all of your billing, you're going to learn like 30% of this, and that's great. It's 30% more than I learned before that. But you will have like a learning curve of, okay, well, how much should I bill when I'm doing this by myself? Or if I'm only seeing one patient an hour, if I'm seeing two patients an hour, how much can I? So it's a learning curve for sure. And you can always call the billing company and ask them, which I think is really helpful because they have like a 24-hour support if you're new.
That is awesome. Yeah, I'm with you too. I really wish that we had someone that would teach this to us and like explain it, because this is how you make your money. This is the money maker. It's like, okay, but yeah, none of us are really focused on that. We're like, how can we put needles? That's our mind right now. But when we get out, like the needles are only half of it, then you have to pay for the needles, and that's its own challenge.
Oh,
So
100%. And learning how to order supplies is something else that you'll have to learn, because like ordering in bulk is less expensive, but how much do you need? Because see, maybe 8 people a week in student clinic, maybe. So yeah, I think it was like a huge learning curve, and not to freak anybody out. Like I don't mean to do that, but there's going to be a bunch that you don't know as far as like the business back end of it, even if you work for someone else. And I think just being like graceful and flexible with that and saying like, well, I actually didn't learn this. I had so much scaffolding around me in school, which I needed. But then there's maybe not as much, like almost like a halfway house for acupuncturists. Like before you're in the real world, like you need to live here. It's kind of like you're in this highly scaffolded place where you have so much support and you can ask all your questions, and then you're out and not a lot. But I leaned a lot on like other practitioners that I knew were doing this already, and they were always really, really helpful. I think most people, if they're not, I don't know, I found that most people aren't threatened by other acupuncturists, especially because everyone has their niche. I'm not going to see people that you're going to see. We're going to appeal to really different people, and that's for everybody. So, like Zahava, she sees mostly Jewish women from the area that she lives. And most, like a lot of fertility, and that's like 20% of what I see, but that's not my niche. I don't love fertility. It's not my thing. So like you're going to find your own stuff. So I don't think anybody needs to like be crazy and protective of their information. Like we can just all help each other. Everyone needs more acupuncture.
mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I completely agree. This is an expanding field. There's a huge market out there for us. Like we just have to be able to, I think we're all in the game together, that we want to change healthcare. So fighting amongst each other is not helpful.
No. And also like if you have that energy of like grasping for patients and being really crazy if they don't schedule their next one out, and like desperate, people can smell that on you.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, okay, I'll come back. Whoa. So if you are just like confident in like your style and what you do, and I think that's something that I really grew seeing, like working for a company, is I was thrown in right away, and people didn't know how little I knew initially. So they were like, Dr. Courtney, what do you think about this? And I'm like, oh my God, I've never heard of that. I have never heard of that. But you have to kind of like spin it and fake it till you make it. And there is something to that like 6-figure acupuncturist where she's like, acupuncture works, period. It just does. So fake it till you make it, and just be confident about you're at least going to get 50% of those points right, I think. Or you might not, and that's fine too. And then if it doesn't work for them, they'll go somewhere else. But I really find that like in the beginning, you're gonna mess up. You're gonna put the wrong point in and be like, oh crap, I meant to do this point. Leave it. Go on to the next thing. Needles work, and I know like this is very anti like what most people at PCOM say, but like acupuncture works. Your energy in the room. I remember like being in school taking a bunch of psych classes, and they said maybe like 70% of patient outcome in psychology was rapport that patients had with their practitioner. I think that is under what it really is. People come in because they feel comfortable with me, and they're going to feel comfortable with you, and they're going to come to see you. Because when I'm gone and I tell them to see someone else, they're real bratty about it. Like, go see this girl in Wicker Park, and they're like, when are you coming back? How dare you take a honeymoon, you monster? You know, so I really feel like they come for you. They
Mhm.
really come for you. So like, don't freak out about perfect needle placement. Don't freak out about maybe not knowing exactly what their pattern is the first time. People explode all of their emotions on you the first time. And they are, especially right now, everyone is a shit show, every single person. So you will be like, oh my gosh, is this heart? Is this, oh my gosh, is this PC? Is this liver? Is it what is going on? And if you can get some needles in them and chill them out, like, and figure it out week by week, you will be fine and they will come back. It's okay.
So on that, I have a question. So when you have a new patient come in and they present with the primary complaint, and then you see the shit show, and then they're like, "Well, how long is this going to take me till you have a treatment?" Like, how do you kind of like? Are you like, "Well, let's just give it 3 weeks and we'll see where we're at," or do you like actually try to put out like a plan for them or
I
timeline?
try to put out a plan and I try to be really decisive in my language. I try to not use fillers. I know as a woman, I feel like sometimes I use like or just or filler words that make me less powerful. And I've really been trying to work on that. And for example, thanking people for being patient if I'm late versus apologizing. Alyssa knows I'm working on this. So instead of saying, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I'm 5 minutes behind. Thank you so much for being so patient. I really appreciate it. It like feels different. Anyway, so it's the same thing with communicating a treatment plan. I think if they are saying, and they always ask, okay, how long is this going to go? And I phrase it as, if you've created a problem or if there is a problem in your body for 10 years, it will not be 6 weeks. It
Mhm.
just won't. Something chronic is going to take longer to unpack because it has layers and you have been living with it for so long. So something chronic, we're going to be here for 6 to 8 weeks. And then I want to see your primary complaint at 50%. If it's not at 50%, I don't feel successful. So let's check in 6 weeks. And if your low back pain is not at 50%, then we will find something else. And it always goes fine. They like at 6 weeks, they're like, great, my pain is at 50%. Awesome. But if it's, something, I always say for chronic health, like I have a few people that have like ankylosing spondylitis or MS or Lyme disease, things like this, you're going to be seeing someone for a very long time. And you might have flares where you need to come in more often, and you might have periods of time where you feel great and then you don't need to come in, but you're going to have to listen to your body on that. So let's get you out of this acute stage and then see. And that works for me. Usually I'm like, acute, let's get you out of the acute, 2, 3 treatments, and then talk about maintenance. And then for chronic, talk to me in 6 weeks. And that's what I do. Fertility, I was super anxious about fertility because fertility, I really feel like people should come in twice a week. People don't like to come in twice a week because it's expensive and it's another thing on their schedule. And if they're going to a reproductive endocrinologist, or if they're going for, hormone treatments or, what have you, it's just something else. So I do a lot of herbs with fertility, but I try to like say like, I think you need to be here twice a week. And if you can't be here for twice a week, once a week with herbs. Or, if I think they're going to be better in 4 weeks, I say 6 weeks, because then if they're better in 4 weeks, they feel like I'm magic. I prefer to feel like I'm magic. I always I think what I used to do is say, oh, you'll feel better, quickly. And then if they don't feel perfect in 2 weeks, they think that you're like a crazy fraud. And that's not what you want. So I'm always like, give me 6 weeks. And if you're not at 50%, we'll circle back.
Mhm.
And it's always fine because acupuncture works. We know this. Acupuncture works.
Does.
So
It
yeah,
does.
over exaggerate what you need and then kill it in 3 to 4 weeks instead.
That's a technique that I haven't had anyone explain before. Like everyone's always like, we will heal you like this. Everyone's a magic pill. And it's like, we're not selling a magic pill. We're selling the lifestyle changes and things that take time to come into effect. And yeah, that's a good way of wording that, because that's marketing right there too. You have to sell your product, sell realistic expectations,
Mhm.
and have someone hold you accountable. But to say 50%, I feel like most people that I've talked to, they're like, we want the pain completely gone in 6 weeks, not 50%. That's a big difference in that. And that's more realistic, I think, when you're dealing with somebody that has, because we're just doing needles. We're not getting them to change their whole lifestyle and all these things. And that's really the root cause. And so to take away 50%, that's impressive. So
Well, and people aren't changing their lifestyle right now because they're in fight flight mode for the past year. So you can say all you want, and I do have conversations all the time gently about, like when I talk about nutrition, I talk about adding foods that are exciting and instead of taking away. So we're not depriving people of things that they love. I talk about, moving our body joyfully rather than like, you need to be in the gym. Like take a walk, like what makes you feel joy? Great. I want you to take a walk around the block 3 times this week. Great. That's great. So like little tiny tweaks. But again, like I've been seeing so much more addiction, depression, anxiety, all of these things. People are not making lasting life changes overall, generally in my practice right now.
mm-hmm.
They're fight flight, they're getting from day to day. So they know, and I tell them this, I'm like, if you don't change how you're living, I'm just going to be unpacking this pain forever. I have a patient right now, and I think Alyssa knows who this is, but he cannot process emotions, and he knows this. And I tell him, you need to be in therapy, you need to move your body, you need to do this, and he knows. And he says, I'm going to pay you $90 until I die instead. And I'm like, great, I'll see you next week. People know, they know, they're not stupid. If you say you're eating crappy foods, of course your belly hurts. Let's talk about adding more green leafy vegetables, or let's talk about making some bone broth or this or that. And if they don't do it, okay, I'll see you next week. That's great. Like, no shame. I'll see you next week. And again, I'll see you next week.
That's I like that's something I personally am horrible at. If someone's not doing something, I'm like, bad. So that's a good thing of like, don't shame them, just be like...
What I've learned through this pandemic is to be incredibly empathetic, because people are so struggling. So people come in and if they're honest, you're going to get more with them anyway. So if they come in and they're like, I have an addict right now, and he's like, I did cocaine. And I'm like, great. How are you feeling today? Did you do cocaine today? Like, we are just working with it. Like, it's like, I am not telling him to stop cocaine. Like, I'm not doing it. He is in it. And like, he knows that's his problem. But like telling somebody that like, or having them infer from what you're saying that they are not enough, or that they aren't doing enough, or that they will always be sick, is something that will only hurt them. So I have learned to negotiate my language in this time to say, okay, that's where we're at. Okay. All right. So what are our goals for today? Like, you just don't even, somebody's going to come in and they're going to say like, I did meth. And you're going to be like, great. So today we're going to endeavor not to do meth, but like, if it happens, girl, and like, obviously that's a really extreme example, but it happens. People are going to say, I need a divorce. And you're going to say, great. And they're going to say, I'm not going to do it for 2 years. Awesome. I will see you for every week for 2 years. See you then. See you then.
Well, that is some awesome advice, and we're nearing the end of our chat today. So let me open it up to Alyssa or Armenia. Have any questions?
Well, she kind of segued into my questions, and my question was going to be more about now that we're at the age of acceptance of cannabis as a medicinal, how has that affected your practice or the way that they are presenting or manifesting their issues to you? I know you talked about the fight or flight. Has that been altered in any way, with them coming in and being lovely with our lovely medicinals?
Yes. So I took a few CEUs on cannabinoid medicine because I wanted to be able to speak to it more accurately. And I have a really good relationship with Mocha in Logan Square. So that's Modern Cannabis in Logan Square. They also have a location in River North, and they're fantastic bud tenders as far as I really feel confident sending my patients there because they were just medicinal, and then they switched over to both. So all of the people behind the counter have a chronic illness, love acupuncture, know how to prescribe this as medicine and not just like, let's get messed up, which, no judgment either way. And I find that it's really great to have a relationship with a dispensary and have continuing education units towards this medicinal, because people will ask you questions. It does interfere with your herbs. So you do need to have a good handle on how marijuana is used medicinally and what it's going to do with your herbal treatments. You need to know and have it be a safe space, I think, when people come in to treatment rooms, for them to say like, I'm super high right now, because it's going to change how you treat them. Because they might get a little bit more paranoid, or they might get, just different reactions to the needles than if they were sober. So I think having like a really open conversation, I do a lot of like, I'm super like drug and sex positive. I get a lot of reproductive health, so I have to talk to men and women about sex all the time. So like that has gotten me really good at talking about drugs as well, and just talking about them matter of fact. Just, all right, this is what it's going to do to your herbs, so I want you to take this separately. Or your acupuncture treatments might look a little bit different if you're high during your treatment versus if you're high after. Just kind of getting well versed around Chinese medicine, interacting with it. But no, it definitely affects your treatments, 100%.
Yes, that's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah.
Alyssa, do you have anything?
I guess maybe just like some last minute advice. We always like to end with something nice to tell us all who are just very close or almost done.
Yeah, I would say something that really helped me was what I said, like reaching out to Zahava, because she had her clinic kind of up and running, and that was really helpful. So I think, and most people want to help you. I had a bunch of specifically like women practitioners reach out to me, and we like made time to do like interviews or to just chat about, okay, how do I bill? How do I do this? Nobody that I've talked to has been ever annoyed if you ask a question. And I think sometimes it's really flattering to be like, oh, okay, like, let me tell you what I know. So I would say, keep a list of people from these podcasts or from, whatever PCOM grad or other grad or best year or whatever that you can contact when you're done with school and say, hey, I'm almost done, or, what steps should I be taking? I promise you, if they have their own business, they have a list of steps, and you might want that list. And it's not like weak or whatever to be like, I have no idea what the next step is at all, help. Because we all did that. I'm not sure who the first person was to open their practice, but like Zahava asked someone else, and I asked Zahava, and then a bunch of people asked me, and it kind of like goes out from there. So just like pick a few people that you feel like kind of vibe with your style, go and visit their clinics, see what their style is. Ask them to shadow. They'll probably let you do it. I shadowed a bunch of people before I graduated in their actual clinics. And it really, really helped to kind of see what I liked, see what I didn't like, and have their like, quote, list of things that they would do. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
That's awesome advice. I only want to contribute one thing to that is I've been asking everyone, like I've been asking Rebecca Hahn, like she also invited me to come to shadow her, but because of COVID and same with Mary Franz, like I haven't been able to shadow anyone. So it's been like a weird thing there, but yeah, hopefully that dissipates and that opens up again. But
well, and I think if people start getting vaccinated, then it'll be comfortable. I know like my clinic is completely vaccinated. So that's really helpful. So when you guys start getting vaccinated, if you haven't been vaccinated already, then I think it will be much more comfortable to come in, because really like we're transmitting at a lower rate when you're vaccinated, and you probably won't get sick. So that's great. And I think, in the next year, we'll be seeing some sense of normalcy come back.
Very true. All right. I think that ends today's chat. I very appreciate you having you on here. Very informational. Like everything that you've done is very impressive. Very impressive how you built this business, and you're doing very, very well. So
thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks for your time, and have a great day, guys.
you too. Thank you.
Thank you, host Dane.